Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/ask Reddit by Planet Reddit. Students of Reddit, what is something your teacher did that really pissed the whole class? Turned off the AC to punish the people passing notes. Man, we had a teacher for our lab who, when the class started talking even a little, would turn off all the 4 fans except for the 5th one, which was right above him. Must suck to be the spouse with that kind of passive aggressiveness. But in our town it was well known, when they went home at night, their fat and psychopathic wives would thrash them within inches of their lives. Screamed at the class because he assumed that an intermittent beeping sound that occurred throughout the lecture was somebody receiving texts. It was a projector that he was using, alerting him to the fact that it was overheating. Dumbus. That's almost as good as the time a substitute tried to confiscate a student's phone when it beeped. It was a diabetes thing attached to the student's body. My friend with an insulin pump tells people that she's bionic and that her batteries are low whenever someone questions the fact that she is beeping. The fuel she uses to recharge is usually a juice box. I have scoliosis, had it since birth, and I wore a brace starting at age 2. My first day of school, grade 1. My brother who is in grade 6 brought over kids he just met to punch me in the stomach, as hard as they could. It did not end well for them. Playing soccer, age 7ish, the ball came at me directly and hit my chest. Ball goes rocketing away, but did knock me over. I get up and start running after the ball. Meanwhile the ref stopped play to make sure I was okay. I just wanted to play soccer and kept saying I was fine. The other team thought I was bionic. $6 million man was on TV at that time. LOL. I had a college professor who was teaching a history course to a bunch of education majors in their junior year. She would ask us questions all the time about things she hadn't yet lectured on and then pull the "really? No one knows the answer to this? Well, I guess we'll just wait for someone to answer." We were all education majors. We knew that trick. We waited her out. Every single time. She always broke first. Edit. People keep asking what's the trick. This was a poorly executed attempt at using the Socratic method. It's better to have students arrive at an answer themselves than it is to tell them. However, you have to first create an environment of trust and respect so that students are comfortable enough to risk a wrong answer. And you have to be willing to provide a little bit of scaffolding should no one know. This professor did neither of those things. We were all education majors. We knew that trick. We waited her out. Every single time. She always broke first. This is the most satisfying thing I've read today. They don't negotiate with terrorists. I hate when teachers do this. Like you are the person being paid to teach us this shit. If we knew this already we would not be wasting our money. She ended up leaving for her vacation earlier than she thought, so our final projects needed to be done 3 days early. Not a big deal if she hadn't told us with 2 days notice. I don't get how teachers get away with this shit. We had our teachers change the exam topic. I took graphic design as a GCSE. My practice exam was an A grade. They then changed the exam to resistant materials with about 2 weeks notice. I ended up with a C grade in my GCSE. Only one person got to do the exam we studied for because their mother went ballistic. Our religious studies GCSE teacher taught us the syllabus for the wrong exam board, so we had to go into school for 3 days during the Easter holidays to learn the entire new syllabus. There is this one biology teacher at our school who apparently did this in the past. Sadly, of all the teachers I ended up with this one, and everyone is kind of nervous since they made a new syllabus this year. Numerous times they failed students at an exam, then publicly admitting that passing 40-50% of students that took the exam would be too much, and that's considered normal behavior. I absolutely hate this. There was a teacher at my old university who just so happened to be the father of one of my closest friends. I was very confused in the beginning when everyone hated him because to me he seemed like a nice guy. I find out later he takes pride in failing his students and will actively fail anyone he feels isn't interested or putting in enough effort. One of my favorite professors said it best: if half your students fail your class, you have failed as an educator for half those students. Yep, damn near aced a class, but I never showed up. Our syllabus said attendance wasn't required, but was highly recommended. My prof must have taken offense to my lack of attendance and failed me. He also took pride in having a 40% pass rate. Only reason he kept his job is because he was the only professor teaching the class. Unfortunately, tenured professors do a bunch of crazy shit and get away with it because they are tenured. On top of that, they get paid an insane amount of money. He wouldn't let the class go until everyone rolled some dice, and if you got 6 on any of the 2 you could leave. I got so many tardy slips and call homes because of him. Question mark? What was the reasoning? Neutral evil. Probably lawful evil, or possibly lawful neutral, given their strict adherence to the Roller 6 routine. Lawful doesn't necessarily mean they follow the law, just that they're rigid to a code. And no, I'm rubbish at parties. 40-degree weather Celsius in outback Australia, and she won't turn on the aircon in class even though it worked. Her reason was that when she was young she didn't have an aircon, and she survived. All the students hated her. Mine was the reverse. Middle of winter up in the Blue Mountains. Beach wouldn't turn the heater on in the mornings because she grew up without heated classrooms. And it's like, yeah, but you guys also were allowed to wear giant ducking coats, were you not? Where didn't they have heated classrooms? There is a schoolhouse by me built in the 1850s and they have a wood stove in the front. Wouldn't be surprised if the teacher was full of shit and just wanted to be a dong. Unfortunately, there are a few like that out there. During English controlled assessments she would play whale noises in the background to help us focus. Class, to help you focus I have put on calming whale noises. Whale porn starts playing. Isn't that better? Meanwhile in whale school, students, to help you focus I have put on calming human noises. Oh yeah duck me in the shitter, oh yeah baby aarghah. Isn't that better? Human music. I like it. Our French teacher held a 5-minute detention for the entire class because we waited outside the classroom for her to let us in. You know, like polite kids do. She claimed we were wasting her time and sent a detention note home to all the parents. Better still, on result day she said, "Wow, I didn't expect you to get an A." Pretty standard teacher stuff, keeping the whole class in at lunch for something one person had done. It was the fact that the school had very clear behavior/punishment policies that teachers and pupils alike understood. That pissed us off, because she blatantly broke them just to prove a point. Edit. To explain what happened in more detail, since folks had questions, someone's phone went off in class. At that school at the time, that meant having your phone taken off you and getting it back at the end of the day. Fair dues. The someone whose phone it was, however, refused to admit it was them. This pissed the class off to begin with. Then the teacher said that we'd all have to come back at lunch. The lesson was after break, so we had another lesson before lunch if I recall correctly, and if we didn't, we'd have an hour's detention after school. Being a goody-goody, I didn't want an hour's detention on my record, so I turned up, but did at least start eating my packed lunch and dared her to tell me not to. I'd like to know if she ever chased up the people who didn't turn up. When I was 10 I had a teacher who hated our entire class. I had a dentist appointment one day and got into class at 11 AM. Our break time was 11:15, 11:30. Apparently for the first 2 hours of the day our class was so bad that everyone had to be kept inside during break. I not being there for the first 2 hours was allowed out, meaning I was the only kid in the playground from my class at break time. It was the most powerful yet loneliest feeling. I can do anything I want. Well, not team sports I guess. But for the first time, the seesaw is finally free to use. Oh, right. My German teacher would make you retake spelling tests until you got 100%. Once you did you could sit and do whatever you like until the whole class got 100%. This caused a lot of pressure on everyone as he used to belittle the students who didn't pass first or the second time. If you was the only one left, he would stand over you and watch you struggle. One test day I decided to bunk off and I got caught. I burst into tears and explained how horrible this teacher was and that I'm never going back into his class. I was moved into a higher set German class with an amazing teacher and my German improved. Oh, this one's a favorite. Post-English class. Break starts. I remain at my desk and do the homework the teacher assigned. Break ends. Teacher comes back. Sees I've done the homework already. She waits for all the class to come back. Then she shouts, since Emeril 1391 has already done the homework, you all get 2 extra pages. Needless to say, that didn't improve my bullying situation. Edit. Wow, this somehow got more attention than I thought it would. So for clarification, it was middle school in Italy. I was 12 at the time. It definitely was not a lot of homework. Don't remember how much, but probably around 5 pages of English grammar exercises. Fill in the gaps, turn adjective into adverb, etc. So it was easy homework. Most pupils who like the subject would be able to do it in a 15 minutes break. Reasons. To this day, I have no clue, but teachers and pupils bullied me terribly in that school. I do remember my parents telling me she was probably bitter because I could speak and understand English better than her. Could have been the case. Could have not. I don't remember. But she surely didn't like me. Yelled at me for no reason. Called me stupid. Laughed when other kids bullied me or actually got mad at me when I got bullied. It means you did something to piss them off. It's safe to say that this wasn't an actual thought-trough pedagogic decision gone wrong. I write really quickly. Since I can read my own writing anyways, I tended to just try and get everything down without regard for quality. For a brief period, my year 9 history teacher thought my speed of writing should be the standard, and would only give the class until I had finished to write everything down before moving on. This didn't help my bullying situation either, nor anybody's learning. I couldn't learn because I was forced to slow down, because otherwise the class wouldn't be able to learn by revising their notes. Since they wouldn't have any, she was usually a really good teacher, so I don't know what she was thinking with this initiative. Gave a C to an 85+% test because she gives grades relative to the average performance of a student. What? In order to encourage students to not work hard and better themselves? And also to undermine their efforts of getting into further education. Sounds like a recipe for success. Join our community Discord, link in description. Not just the whole class, but the whole school. She got a bunch of teachers fired because of petty office politics, and those teachers were older and more beloved than her. Forced us to make a donation to a charity. When I didn't bring anything in, I got a demerit. Had to argue that not everyone has the ability to give something away. She then told me off for back chatting in front of the class. Everyone was like, WTF. I would find her political views and then found a way to donate to opposite charity. There would be a way, and she can't exactly choose the charity. Thank you for your donation to OBMRH Obese Men Raping Horses. Your $10,000 will be put to good use. Head teacher of my high school tried to expel me for having an epileptic seizure in front of him. Said I was a danger and distraction to others pupils and was disrupting his school. I ended up being kept out of school for 2 months while my parents fought my case. In that time almost all of the rest of the teaching staff, who were furious with this decision, kept me supplied with work and even one-to-one tutoring when needed. This was in a rural area where the next nearest school was 40 miles away, so we had no other school choice. He'd have 8 lawsuits coming down on him and the school like the wrath of God and end up shit-canned and blackballed for that in the States. That incident would have paid for your college education. The States being one of the few places where you would need that windfall to pay for your college education. My brother was finding his balance of medication while in high school and would have a seizure every so often in class. That by itself is embarrassing. Why the hell would somebody make it much more difficult for you? I'm sorry, friend. People suck. He would act like he was enlightened and say shit like video games rot your brain. All your free time should be spent on education as that is all that matters, but then during the lessons he would go completely off topic and start talking about random shit. Apparently he is making a board game that could compete with chess because he is just that brilliant. I went to a religious university and many professors would flat out say that if you play video games you will never get married. One professor for a family course I took told the girls, effectively, if your boyfriend plays video games, leave him. My wife and I met at that school and almost every issue in our marriage has been hashed out over a marathon session of Dr. Mario. We bond over games. Kingdom Hearts is almost an annual tradition for us. I'll play and she will look stuff up in guides. We're currently working on getting 100% on AC Syndicate. On the last day of school it is custom, in Germany, that you don't do anything and just watch a movie or go to town and eat an ice cream. We are a school where you have class from 8 to 16, and we're the state that has summer vacation last. So in the last lesson where we did ducking maths which no one likes, he told us at the end, how does it feel to be the last students doing lessons in the whole of Germany? Sorry for bad English. I think everyone would have just refused when I was at school. We didn't do any work for like the last 2 weeks of the school year. On the last day of school in Australia, it's custom for everyone to bring food in and basically have a party in each class. At least, it's custom for those that go to school. It's considered optional. Spent the entire semester in uni telling us half the material would not be on the semester exam. Guess what? All the material was on the semester exam and it tanked all of our scores because the professor was a dong and hated that people go to uni to get a qualification for a job. He hated anyone in his class that didn't aspire towards a career in academia. We were about 10-11 years old. It was the last period of the day and the music teacher was subbing our science class. He was sitting on the computer and we were all getting on with work. Towards the end of the period, our homeroom teacher comes into the classroom and exclaims, "It's the end of the day. Why are you all not packed up?" To which the music teacher replied, "I told them and they refused to. Excuse you." He hadn't said a thing to us, so we all protested. Even so, our homeroom teacher told us off for being disobedient as the music teacher slithered out of the room and we had to stay 10 minutes late as punishment. Lying snake. You got punished for not packing up. What? Yay. I get punished for packing up. We used to get yelled at if we even thought about packing up before the bell went off. Used to get yelled at for being late to classes cause every goddamn teacher was like, "Don't move you and today I learned you hear that bell," and proceed to wonder why everyone was late to class. At university, my professor did not tell us the time of our examination, despite numerous emails from 20 odd students, as well as the head professor of the course. This exam could have been any time from 9 AM to 5 PM. And I lived 90 minutes from campus and relied on crap public transport to get into uni. It got to 9 PM the day before the exam. No one knew when the exam would be, and if we missed it we would fail the whole module. So I took the train to the city where my uni is, booked a cheap, shitty hotel room for the night, just to make sure I was there on time. We all took the exam at 12 PM, after getting an email an hour before the exam was being held. So I wouldn't have made it in time if I stayed at home. Worst part was that no one cared. Not the professor, the course lead, or the head of our school. They all just left 30 students in the lurch, allowing them to potentially fail the exam and therefore the module. Sounds like a small university. The university I went to had a student population of around 10,000, so not huge. All our exam dates and times were published when we registered for courses. This could be changed in the first 2 weeks through the registrar's office, but proper notice would be required. 2 words. Collective punishment. Teachers of Reddit, if you want your whole class to instantly hate you, this is how you do it. Another thing I remembered. We had to go to a nearby sports field for pay, which was about a 10-minute walk from the school. We only had a 5-minute gap between lessons. No matter how many times we explained we had pay, some teachers would always kick up a fuss if we were late to the lesson after pay. It also led to students missing the school bus if you had pay as the last lesson of the day. I'm pretty sure some parents complained because they started ending pay lessons 5-10 minutes earlier. Pay was a complete mess in my school, scheduling wise. The sports fields were 10 minutes cycling away. Then you of course also needed time to change. This had to be done in 5 minutes. Since this was impossible, there were rules that pay was supposed to end 5 minutes earlier in order to make it back in time. Teachers never kept to this rule. Entire classes were punished for being late when returning from pay. Teacher spent weeks teaching us the Schindler method of learning about natural science instead of teaching from the book. On test day, he gave us the test that came with the teacher's version of the book, so we'd never even covered the info on the test. We all scored very poorly but learned to ignore him in class and study the book on our own. Google isn't telling me about this Schindler method. What is it? His name was Mr. Schindler and his method was to teach us the things he remembered from college about natural science, none of which was covered in our 9th grade textbooks. Mayo, how did he get the job? Got caught on my phone in class. Took it away and put it in her drawer and manages to lose it. Everyone gets searched apart from her and she was a supply teacher. And I think it was some girl in my class. I once got my 3DS taken, and when I got it back the admin at the front desk said that they played it and ruined whatever I was doing. I was rightly pissed, but I didn't want to get into any more trouble. Here you go, kid. Used your master ball on a Pidgey. That's such a dong move. Taking it away from someone and then using it. The teachers who would spend half of the class time getting people to wear their uniforms correctly in the UKBTW and then not have enough time to cover all the topic for the day, usually leaving us severely behind or backed up with homework. No one cares that someone has got their tie the right effing length or their shirt tucked in. What makes it more of a joke is they say not having uniform will cause distractions. Yet not once on a non-school uniform day did we have anything like that happen. Edit. I was one who did wear the uniform correct and was one of the top in the class. The problem was other people did not have their uniform right and would complain the top button hurt their neck or the tie stopped them breathing and all sorts of stupid things. So again, to clarify, I couldn't get my education in some classes because the teachers were too busy sorting out other people's uniform issues. My high school got church uniforms when we got a new principal under the guise that we were too poor to afford our own clothes and it would keep intruders out, without even polling students. I was very vocal about being against them but wore it anyway to avoid trouble. My reward was that if I wore a jacket I was singled out by security and had to unzip it. Keep in mind dozens of students wore hoodies and were not approached. Or I was told I looked unfamiliar and had to go to the office so they could verify my identity. It's a small town and everyone knew me since I was also in the student body government. I would pass by the principal in the hallway and he would pretend to not know me until I magically unzipped my jacket. But the cherry on top was when the office called every single teacher, every day, to check if I had the uniform on. The harassment became too much for me and I withdrew from my senior year of high school before the first semester ended. Luckily I was able to take 2 online classes at home to graduate. I couldn't think of a bigger distraction than making a huge fuss over uniforms or what a student is wearing. That is some seriously messed up attitudes from people who supposedly became teachers because they wanted to teach and grow young minds. Not a teacher but the administration had all of us in middle school wear student IDs on a lanyard color coded by what hallway your classes were in every single day. Sparked massive, actual protests from the students, because even though my town is pretty low on crime rates, that administration, middle school and above, essentially treated every kid like they were either already a criminal or had the strong potential to be. There were so many protests on the lanyard BS they stopped doing it after winter break, because it'd be bad publicity if they kept giving out detentions for insubordination the way they were. They also did things like assigned seating at lunch and forced the middle schoolers who wanted to go see the high school football games to be fenced in so as not to cause trouble. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.